It is my honor to introduce to you Dr. Joel Wallach. Dr. Wallach, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us each and every Friday. I just so appreciate you. And I appreciate that you are willing to share without cost to us your information and your time. Thank you so much, Dr. Wallach. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Rebecca, for all the kind words, and thank you to your team. I have lots of information this morning, and it's sort of like a warning, okay? It's like the red warning light going off here. We actually have a CD by that title, Red Warning Light. Pharmacist Keith and I made that, and goes into about 8 or 9 of these pre-existing conditions that are not genetic, they're not autoimmune, but they do set you up for a bad time if you get any of these viruses. I said this a year and a half ago, you may remember that, Rebecca, when Fauci was saying, this COVID thing is a nothing, just wear a mask, wash your hands, distance 6 feet, and it'll be gone in 2 weeks. We actually have the film of him being interviewed on the news, Fox News, and that's what he said a year and a half ago. Well, what did we get by listening to him? Okay, by just washing hands for a year and a half, distancing 6 feet, and wearing a mask. As of this morning, we have 31,724,250 infections in the United States alone. We're number one. We make up 25% of the world's infections, and 573,914 dead. It makes up 25% of the total world dead. So that's hardly a testimony that he was correct. He left out 95% of what he needed to give us. He said nothing about supporting your immune system. He said nothing about killing the bugs and so forth. I will have a vaccine in a couple of weeks. Well, it took a year and a half to get the vaccine, okay, because they had to start from scratch. Nobody even had one even begun, and it was a mess. And so we have some trouble. We're spiking again now, even though they've been vaccinating now for about 6 months. They're bragging that, we've vaccinated 80 million people and blah, 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 blah in the United States. But guess what? We're spiking now again. And I'm going to read a couple of numbers to you. Number one, we've been averaging about 65,000 new cases a day. Yesterday, we had 76,230 new cases. Okay. And they're predicting that because our vaccination is only designed to deal with COVID-19, that SARS, which is a acronym for Southeastern Asia Respiratory Syndrome, also is called COVID-2 because it was identified in 2002. And Dr. Milan and I made a CD in 2003 to deal with this. In 2005, we
something you can listen to on your headphones.
Oh, you got to mute him.
Hold on. Everybody's supposed to be muted, folks. You're not supposed to be able to unmute yourself. Go ahead, Dr. Wallach.
Okay. And then we have certain things, like I said, the SARS is expected to come. And they're saying it's going to be bigger than what we've just been through with COVID-19. Now, here's why. This all started in it all started in 1882. Now, there's been plagues that go back to biblical times. Just about every chapter in the Bible, the Old Testament, talks about the plagues. And of course, Moses asked God for help, and God sent 8 plagues upon the Egyptians, which Pharaoh said, I better let the Hebrews go before we get our 9th and 10th plague here, because it's killing all the soldiers. And so there's nothing new, okay? In fact, I actually have pictures of Chinese mummies that are, radio dated, okay, back 3,000 years ago. And they're covered in these pox on their face and their arms and their chest and everything. So they died of smallpox 3,000 years ago. And that went until, let's see here, that went until 1797, okay, when a young country doctor in England by the name of Edward Jenner noticed that the milkmaids weren't ever dying of smallpox. It was always the farm owners, the guys who owned the dairy herd, would die of the smallpox, but the milkmaids never did. And he examined them, and they had these pox on their hands, which is cowpox, which they're getting from the udders of the cows. So here's the funny part of the story. He takes the 9-year-old kid of his gardener, scratches his shoulders, takes some of this pus from a milkmaid, and we actually have her name. Her name is Sarah. And he put this pus from Sarah's hands from the cowpox onto these scratches in this 9-year-old boy's shoulders. And a month later, he challenges him with mucus and pus from 3 people who had died of smallpox. He survived it. That was the beginning of serious vaccinations. 1797, Edward Jenner and for smallpox. And then let's jump here to the state of Michigan. Okay, the state of Michigan. They right now have the worst record of any state in the United States, Michigan. They have 9,000 on the average, about 8,000 to 9,000 new cases of the coronavirus every day. 8,000 to 9,000 new cases every day, just them alone. Okay, and here in the USA, we had, no, let me back up to Michigan. In Michigan, they had 246 people who had been vaccinated with the double vaccination, and they got active COVID coronavirus infections. 3 died, 100 were hospitalized. And this is, again, from Michigan. And so that's very scary. Now, what's going on here? Oh, Mexico increased their death rate by 60% overnight. Okay, they went from 200,000 dead to 312,000 dead in one night. Okay, and that's because of their diet. It's not a racial thing. It's not anything else other than diet. We've done this before, but I think it's worth it because we probably have new people and people forget and they get busy with their stuff. So I'm going to give you 2 or 3 comparisons here, if I may, and then we can go to Q&A, okay?
All right.
Okay, let's go to Nigeria in Africa, okay, and Brazil in South America. They both have about 208 million people. And Nigeria depends on whose numbers you look at, they're 97% to 98% Black African tribal people. Okay. And they have 2,000 dead from the coronavirus and 163,000 infections, as this is as of this morning. Brazil, same population, 208 million. They have 330,193 dead. And they have 13 million infections. Huge difference between the two, yet they have the same population. What's the difference? Well, Nigeria, now wait a minute, they're Black, and the Black people are supposed to have the second highest rate of deaths per 100,000 infections in the world. Okay, well, Nigeria lives on the west coast of Africa. They live like Asians. They live on maize, corn, rice, sweet potatoes, beans, squash, and seaweed. They eat like Asians. Okay, so their villi are good. They're getting trace minerals from the seaweed and algae from the ocean. And so it's giving their bone marrow nutrition so it can make white blood cells and antibodies to kill and eat the viruses. I guarantee you they're not all vaccinated. And then Brazil has, again, 330,193 dead, 13 million infections, and they are 47% to 50%, depending on whose numbers you look at, white Europeans who emigrated there some 300 years ago. You have 45% mulattoes, which are mixed race, half white Europeans and half Black, and 9% Black. Okay, and they live on nothing but wheat, barley, rye, and oats because the English and the Spanish who went there brought all those wheat, barley, rye, and oats with them. Okay, so that's the difference between the two. Huge difference. Now let's look at 2 Native American Indian tribes. They're both indigenous peoples from the United States, right? They both have about the same number of people in their main tribal communities. Reservations is the word I'm looking for. Okay, they have about 300 50,000 people in their main reservations. And the Navajo Indians in Arizona have 1,200 dead, 1,247 dead, 30,000 infections. The Ojibwe Indians in northern Minnesota, up near the Great Lakes, has 0 dead and 27 infections. Not 2,700, but just 27 and 0 dead. Huge difference between them, yet they're both Native American peoples. So what's the difference? Well, the Ojibways have been eating wild rice and algae from the Great Lakes for 400 years. They went there to escape the settlers in Florida, and they left and they hit Minnesota in the spring, and they didn't have any money to buy land, so they just lived sort of on the shores of the Great Lakes and just scooped out the wild rice, and they liked it, so they began to eat it 400 years ago and never stopped. Well, the Navajos began to eat wheat, brown rye, and oats in 1865 when the Scottish people came, and rather than fight the Navajos, they just gave the Navajos wheat and showed them how to plant wheat so they'd have a predictable source of food. And so the Navajos let the Scottish in without a fight. Okay. But it's a diet. Okay. The Navajos are still eating wheat, brown rye, and oats, fried flatbread. Okay. And every kind of noodle and bread you can think of. Whereas the Ojibways are still eating for 400 years wild rice and algae from the Great Lakes, corn, maize, and game, wild game. Let's look at one more here. Let's see here. Let's look at the number 2. Okay, they have the number 2 number of dead in the world now. It's Mexico, because they went from 204,000 dead to 321,000 dead almost overnight. They increased their death rate by 60%. Mexico and Japan both have about 127 million people. And Japan has 9,000 dead. Mexico has 321,000 dead. Japan has 484,000 infections, and Mexico has 2,256,300 infections. Huge difference. What's the difference? Well, Japan lives on, again, maize, corn, rice, sweet potatoes, beans, squash, and sweet potatoes. Okay. And the Mexicans in Mexico live on nothing but wheat, barley, rye, and oats. That gluten is killing their intestines. The villi go away. They don't supplement. They're not a culture that supplements. They're not eating algae like the Japanese do. Okay. And so that's the deal. Okay. I'll give you one more. Let's look at Florida and Taiwan. Let's look at Florida and Taiwan. Florida and Taiwan have the same population, about 22 million people. And Taiwan has 10 dead and 1,000 infections. Florida has 33,844 infections, 2,096,862 infections, and Florida has 33,844 dead. Huge difference between them. What's the difference? Well, Taiwan lives like Asians. It just lives on maize, corn, rice, sweet potatoes, beans, squash, and seaweed. Okay, they're an island nation, so they have easy access to seaweed and algae. Well, Florida, depending on what county you look at, they're 40, 50, 60% Latinos, Blacks, and indigenous people, the Native Americans, Indians, and they all live on wheat, barley, rye, and oats. And so they drive the number. I guess New York and Florida are second, third only to the state of Michigan when it comes to the number of new infections and deaths and all that kind of stuff. So Florida is really, really bad because of their indigenous populations, the Black population, and the Latinos. And it's not a racial thing. It's a cultural dietary thing. Every time I've showed you a comparison, it's always a difference, huge difference in the diet, and that results in a huge difference of infection rate and death, because you need your bone marrow to protect you. Now, remember I said that vaccinations are not going to do well, okay, in people. There's going to be a huge variance in the amount of success people get from vaccinations during this pandemic. And that's because they've been eating gluten for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. Their intestines are dead. They don't supplement. And so their bone marrow is dead. And you know people that have to go to a doctor once a month or once a week for B12 and an iron shot because they tried iron pills and that didn't work. They're anemic and bleeding under their skin. They weren't making enough red blood cells and white blood cells and platelets and antibodies. And so getting a vaccination is worthless if you're not getting nutrition to your bone marrow, because vaccines do not kill the viruses, bacteria, fungus, or yeast. They just alert your body to the bad DNA and RNA in the bugs. So when the bug comes, you know, there's a bad guy. You're supposed to send your white blood cells, your antibodies to go get them. But if your bone marrow is dead and you can't make antibodies and white blood cells, you're dead. Okay, so that's why we came up with a book in 2003, because remember, 1882, it all started. When 1882, let's see, Monday, September 4th, 1882 at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, on the bluff overlooking the construction of the Brooklyn Bridge on Pearl Street, New York City, Thomas Edison and Jonathan Leaves pulled the switch in the first commercial electric generating plant. Within 10 years, everybody in the industrialized world had switched from wood stoves and fireplaces and fire pits to electricity. Well, the byproduct of wood stoves and fireplaces and fire pits was wood ashes. They put them in the gardens for fertilizer, had minerals in them. They would eat them. Grandma, oh my God, Grandma would just eat them 3 times a day because she had cravings and she knew that the minerals in that wood ashes would, deal with her cravings. But when they went to electricity, they didn't have that anymore. When people came to the doctor and said, I'm gaining some weight, I'm feeling funky, shouldn't I be taking some vitamins and minerals? They're starting to advertise vitamins and minerals on the radio. Nah, don't waste your money and time on vitamins and minerals. Just eat well, you get everything you need. Well, any doctor who said that should be put in jail as a mass murderer. You cannot get everything you need just by eating well, because plants only need 3 elements from the soil. Commercial fertilizers for wheat and corn and oats and that kind of stuff only has 3 nutrients in it. Now, trees had maybe 5, 8, 10, 12, 15, 20, depending on where the trees grew, because nutritional minerals do not occur in a uniform black around the crust of the earth. They occur in veins like gold and silver. And that's why you can eat the same recipe your grandma ate, and she lived to be 114. And you're eating the same recipe, but she lived in Indiana on an old Amish farm, and you're living in Pennsylvania. And so you don't have the same minerals that she had. You're not having wood ashes, so you're not getting minerals. You're not supplementing, and that's why you're dead and in heaven. Because you didn't give your bone marrow what it needed, so the virus killed you. So at any rate, that's the overview here. You got to get a hold of the book and the CD, Hell's Kitchen, get a hold of the Red Warning Light CD, get a hold of the book Black Gene Lies and the CD Black Gene Lies, and get a hold of the book Immortality and the CD Beyond Immortality, which goes into these long-lived cultures that their average lifespan is 165. Okay, and they were the basis of the book and the CD called Lost Horizon by James Hilton. You ever hear of Shangri-La, Rebecca?
Yes, sir, Dr. Wallach.
Okay, well, Shangri-La is not a mythical place. It's an actual valley in Hunza near the Giltar Glacier between Pakistan and China. And James Hilton, the author of the book and the movie, Lost Horizon, was a reporter for the New York Times. He was an investigative reporter for the New York Times and the London Times. There was this guy by the name of Lee Chin Yun, who was claiming to be 265 years old. He's running around selling his herbs, and people are buying them like crazy because they want to be 265 like him. So the 2 newspapers send James Hilton to go check this guy out and see if he can run him over and show how he's a fraud. He followed him for a year, and he writes a newspaper article for the New York Times and the London Times, said, this guy's real. This is real stuff. Okay. And he got all the information from the valley where this guy lived and came from, called Shangri-La. That's where the people live the longest because they have the most minerals in their food, because of the Giltar Glacier grinding up the mountain, which has those minerals in it from volcanic eruptions. Now, you've heard of the blue zones.
Yes. Okay,
the blue zones, almost, I think all 5 of them have a source of volcanic ash, because they're peninsulas, they're islands, they're Polynesian islands. They're all volcanic islands, and they have all this volcanic ash. And so when they grow food in the soil there, they get the minerals, and that's why they live so long. So anyway, you got the drill. So back to you now.
All right. So Dr. Wallach, let's talk about eating well. Okay.
Okay.
So in my lifetime, our food pyramid has changed at least twice drastically. And now the majority of what the USDA is saying that we need to eat are whole grains, which includes the wheat, barley, rye, and oats. I mean, they're promoting 15 grain breads and crackers that are made from all these different grains
Mhm.
and pasta that's whole wheat and, multi-grain.
Mhm.
And when we look at your research and we look at everything that you have done, they're poisoning us, Dr. Wallach.
You're very correct, Rebecca. Now, I have to tell you that medical doctors only have one pharmaceutical that cures anything. That's antibiotics that kill staphylococcus, streptococcus, all that kind of stuff. Um, um, and so that's it. All the other pharmaceuticals are designed to treat and manage symptoms. The medical system only manages symptoms. Johns Hopkins came out in August of last year with the list of the top 8 killers in hospitals in the United States. Number 1 is heart disease, no surprise there. Number 2 was cancer. Now, was it really the cancer that killed them or the cancer treatment? But they didn't say. They just said, more people died. The second where people died a lot was cancer. Number 3 was medical errors. That's Johns Hopkins. That's not me. So why would you want to go to the hospital? Now, here's the answer to your question. Doctors know nothing about nutrition. They get 20 minutes of nutrition in 8 years of school. And then it's just eat well, get everything you need from your food. That is absolutely 100% and 1,000% incorrect. You cannot say that. It's not true. And so every doctor who says that should have the cuffs put on them. They should be put in jail for life. And if you count up how many people they've killed by saying that and how much money they make, the first question that a patient should ask their doctor is, now, how many kids do you have in college and when is tuition due? Okay.
Right.
Because you have good insurance and the doctor doesn't feel guilty about milking your insurance policy. Okay, there's 25 different diseases you get from having osteoporosis of the skull. Have you ever heard of the doctor talk about osteoporosis of the skull?
Never.
No, because his golf buddy and his tennis partner are ear, nose, and throat doctors. They're neurologists, they're eye doctors, they're dentists. Okay, they sell hearing aids. And so why would they want to prevent and cure these 25 diseases that are caused by osteoporosis of the skull when that gives them so much cash flow? So I actually have a book out called It's All in Your Head, which goes into these 25 diseases, what to do for each one, how to prevent them, how to reverse them. And this is why we do self-help things. Okay. The same way with you, I used to change the oil in our tractors and cars and trucks and things like that. We changed the air filters, right? We'd look at the fan belts, make sure they were good and not wearing away and going to pop off. We made sure that there's plenty of grease, in the oil pan and stuff like that. And it's just one of those things where you have to do a certain amount of stuff. You just can't. Well, I have to go to the doctor twice a year. I've got good insurance and they pay for it, and I just don't worry about it. Just whatever my doctor says I do. Well, how many prescriptions are on? Well, I'm on 27 prescriptions, but I don't worry about that because insurance pays for it. That's absolutely insane. You will add 25 to 50 healthier years of your life if you can get yourself off the medications, eat well, and supplement.
Yeah, so let's look at disease prevention and disease resolution rather than maintaining it.
Okay.
I mean, that just totally that baffles me, Dr. Wallach, that you're just gonna stay on a chemical that masks symptoms like a Band-Aid, so you can't see it, or maybe you can't feel it, but then so many people still are, and they're going back and getting more and more prescriptions. And
well, say it had doctors
so
after doctors after doctors, Rebecca, tell them, well, your diabetes is a genetic thing. You got 5 generations of your family with diabetes. You got it. We can manage it, with our insulin or metformin. And it's funny, they'll give you metformin, which is an oral version of insulin. You take it and it doesn't work, so they give you an injection. You're 65 years old and they say, oh, you have type 1 diabetes. You'll have to be on insulin injections the rest of your life. Well, that doctor should go to jail for fraud because type 1 diabetes is a birth defect. You're born with it. If you got it, they know in 24 hours because they take a blood sample in babies to see if they have type 1 diabetes. Very simple. And you're 65 years old, you've never been diagnosed with diabetes? No, just a couple of weeks ago. Okay, well, you need to get other opinions here because your doctor's not telling you the truth. Either he's lying to you or he's ignorant or both, or that's really scary if he's both. Okay. And so the reason why you didn't respond to the metformin is you've been eating gluten all your life. What do you eat for breakfast? Well, I've been eating oatmeal and Aunt Jemima pancakes, and I go to Waffle House every morning for breakfast. I have flour tortillas at lunch every day. At the takeout at the Mexican restaurant. I go to Spaghetti Factory 3 nights a week. Well, that's why you have type 1 diabetes. It's not type 1 diabetes, but their doctor's calling it that because now you have to go there once a month for prescription, have to test your blood and your A1C and all that kind of stuff. And he runs up a bill of $200 for the laboratory, which he gets a piece of. He charges you $100 for the office visit, and he's milking you like a cow.
Yeah. I have clients, Dr. Wallach, that have gone from a 10.1 A1C to a 5.7 in 3 months.
Yeah, just by changing their diet and taking the supplements.
That's right. Changing the diet, taking the supplements, and it just makes a world of difference. Now let's go back to eating right, Dr. Wallach.
Okay. I want to go back to the Garden of Eden.
Well, I want to go back to protein and meats and telling people don't eat red meat. It's like, how do we maintain our own muscle if we're not, consuming the amino acids and proteins to be able to maintain that muscle?
Well, it's difficult. Most people aren't going to do the proper thing. They'll be eating so much whole grains, like wheat and barley, rye, and oats, trying to get protein from the grain, and they'll be killing their villi. And even if they're supplementing, they're not going to be able to absorb a high percentage. But again, I like to compare all these Asian countries with the European countries. And let me give you one more comparison here, and then I'll specifically answer your question. Let's look at Vietnam with 97 million people. And let's look at, Texas with 29 million people. So Texas is 1/3 the population of Vietnam, okay? And Vietnam has 35 dead from the COVID and 2,600 infections. Texas, as of this morning, has 49,124 dead, has 2,817,947 infections. It's only 1/3 the population of Vietnam. What is going on there? Well, Vietnam is eating the classic Asian food. They haven't done what Philippines did. Philippines have like 6 nations involved in the beginning of the Philippines, and 3 of them are European countries, and they brought them wheat, barley, rye, and oats. And so the Philippines don't do so well compared to Vietnam. Okay, and the Philippines have 100 million people, and they're in bad shape compared to the Vietnamese. Now, and again, the Vietnamese live on maize, corn, rice, sweet potatoes, beans, squash, and algae and seaweed, where they're getting their trace minerals for their bone marrow. Texas, depending on what county you're looking at, you have 40%, 50%, 60% Latinos, Blacks, and indigenous peoples. Okay, just like Florida. Same principle here. And there's, this is not a racial thing, it's a cultural dietary thing, because those people eat that way. It's not a racial thing. And that's why I gave you first Nigeria, which is 97, 98% Black tribal Africans, and they only have 2,000 dead compared to 330,000 dead in Brazil, which is 47% white, 47% mulatto, and 9% Black. Same population, but it's a huge difference between 2,000 dead and 330,000 dead. It's a big difference between 163,000 infections and 13 million infections. Okay, it's diet. Okay, so diet is important. And again, I said that people are going to have a variable response to the vaccinations if they don't get off of gluten, because gluten, wheat, barley, rye, and oats, and other grains of that nature, any foods that have them in them, crackers, muffins, buns, bagels, matzah bread, all that kind of stuff. And that's why certain races and certain cultures have certain diseases, because it's of their diet. Okay. If I could take 1,000 black guys and feed them for 6 months like Asians and give them all the COVID virus, none of them would get it. You know, they wouldn't have an infection. Or if they did, it would be just a fever for 3 days, like a common cold, to be it. I can take then 1,000 Asians and treat them nutritionally like the inner cities and a big black community like New York, okay, and the ghettos, and give them the black diet from the ghettos, and they all die from COVID. It's not a racial thing, it's a dietary cultural thing. So first thing you have to do to do a good diet, and I've been on a gluten-free diet for 73 years. I've been taking the 90 essential nutrients for 73 years. I'm 82. Most people think I'm 45, 50 years old when they look at me. I don't have, you know, the usual infirmities. I don't have arthritis. I don't have high blood pressure. I don't have diabetes. I don't have irritable bowel syndrome. I don't have lupus. I don't have thyroid issues. I don't have kidney failure. I'm not in dialysis. I don't have peripheral neuropathies. I don't have any of that stuff. Okay. I don't have any skin problems. I don't have any psoriatic arthritis. I don't have any RA, rheumatoid arthritis. And it's all because I've been on a gluten-free diet for 73 years and taking the 90 essential nutrients for 73 years. As you said in the introduction, I had bad things. My mom and dad took me to 20 different doctors over a 5-year period, and they couldn't figure it out. I had to figure it out myself because they were going to institutionalize me and put me in an institution for the rest of my life. And that didn't sound too good for a 9-year-old. And so I started reading, and one night I figured it out and started eating the animal food, which had been supplemented. In 3 days' time, I cured myself after 5 years of 20 doctors not being able to figure it out. I just ate animal food, and it cured me in 3 days.
It's incredible, Dr. Wallach, what just making that small change will do in our diets. And the fact that the veterinarian world and the farmers that raised animals had this figured out for their
they don't have health insurance for animals because they don't need it.
Right, but it wasn't being incorporated in the same way in their own diets. For many, some of them had it figured out.
Well, they didn't even have it figured out. They were just putting the wood ashes in the garden when they had the wood stoves, and it was kind of sort of surreptitiously, sort of backwards. They didn't even know what was going on, was preventing all these diseases. Okay. And so when they went to electricity, and that's why we came up with the CD in the book, Hell's Kitchen. And of course, I had the same thing when I cured Pastor Creflo Dollar from Atlanta, Georgia. His daughter was dying at 12 years of age of, quote, a genetic disease, unquote, of black kids. And I cured her in 2 weeks, to make a long story short. And he said to me, Wallach, what about all these other genetic diseases in black folks? I said, well, sir, there's no genetic disease in anybody, and certainly not black folks. He says, come to my church. And I gave a lecture, and that was my first record. It was Dead Doctors Don't Lie. Mm-hmm. And we made another one, which we called Black Gene Lies. And then he said, can you put all this in a book? And I did, and it's called Black Gene Lies. Okay, goes into all this stuff in the history of mineral supplements, unwittingly mineral supplements, because they're putting wood ash. The slaves were living to be 110, and the farm owner, the plantation owners, were dying in their 50s because the slaves were putting the wood ashes in their gardens, but not the plantation owners' gardens.
Right. Okay. So I do want to go back to the proteins, Dr. Wallach.
Okay. You can actually do some pretty good protein stuff with plants, but you have to know what you're doing. You have to really work at it. The average person is not going to eat all the beans and things they need to get. They'll be eating beans 6 times a day to get enough. Even people who are vegetarian, I like them to see them be an ovo-lacto vegetarian. The eggs and dairy, and be a vegetarian, no red meat. They could do it with eggs. They could do it with eggs and dairy. The chicken and the egg is just the size of a button, small button on a blouse, like 2-3 millimeters in diameter. The chick is on top of the yolk, that little white spot on top of the yolk. You can actually take little kitchen scissors and snip that baby chick off the yolk, say a prayer over it and bury it. or flush it down the toilet, give it a water burial, whatever you're going to do. And then there's no animal in the yolk and the white of the egg. Same way when you look at every vertebrate, well, let me say every mammal vertebrate, what's the first food that they eat?
Milk.
Milk. Well, there you go. That's about the most easily digested, the most useful, the most efficient in building tissues is milk. Okay, and the chick inside the shell is eating the yolk and the white of that egg, okay, for 20 something days as it's developing from that spot to a chick. I mean, think about that. Everything that chick needs to go from a spot the size of a button to a chick with a beating heart and a liver and kidneys and skin and feathers and all the muscles and bones. I mean, it never ceases to fascinate me. Okay, so people, if they're going to be a vegetarian, they need to be an ovo-lacto vegetarian. And if they don't want to eat that little chick the size of a button, they can remove it, say a prayer over it, and either burn it, cremate it, flush it down the toilet, give it a water burial, whatever you're going to do. But if you're going to be a successful vegetarian, you have to be an ovo-lacto vegetarian. You don't have to eat red meat, but you have to be at least an ovo-lacto vegetarian.
Okay. Now, so share with us, the benefits of eating red meat.
Okay, well, red meat is a dense source of high quality protein. It has certain minerals in it as a result. Okay. And so, and when you go back to Bible days, most of the people who were either they were followers of the great people in the Bible, whether it was Moses or Jesus or Muhammad, all of their followers, all their postulates and so forth were herdsmen for sheep, okay, or cattle or goats or whatever it was. And so that was a big thing back then. And everybody's eating milk and meat at that time and eggs and so forth. And so, and cheese came out of that. And so, there's no red meat in cheese. And so people are really failing themselves and having some hippie tell them, oh, just eat, whole grain, which is gluten. And, you don't need a supplement, just, eat more vegetables. Well, that's why we have such trouble with health in our hippie generation. That's why we have such health issues on people who think they're going to save the earth by eating more grain and not using any fossil fuels. I'll say one sentence there, that fossil fuels are not the cause of carbon dioxide going up and the death of the ocean and the death of the reefs and all that kind of stuff. Ironically, is hydroelectric plants damming up the rivers to make electricity is the cause, because they block the food from getting to the ocean, and the algae dies, the polyps for the reefs die, and the carbon dioxide goes up because the greatest plant mass on Earth is the algae in the ocean, about 10 times more than the trees and the grasses on land. Now, because of that, and I'm the guy that figured it out, I was one of the featured speakers. I was one of the featured speakers in 2019 at the annual meeting at Tesla, their annual meeting. And you can go there in that magazine that came out, that was the program. They still have it available, 2019 Tesla's magazine for their annual meeting. One of the featured papers in there is called Prescription for Mother Earth. And there's a DVD that goes along with it, shows all my slides and everything. It's a 1 hour CD, a DVD of my lecture. And they sell a lot of those. And we're working to raise money to go to Queensland, Australia, which they dammed up the 3 main rivers that were feeding the Great Barrier Reef 25 years ago to make electricity. And that's why the Great Barrier Reef is dying, because they cut off the food supply to the Great Barrier Reef by putting those hydroelectric plants in there. Right now, we have 1 million hydroelectric plants damming up the big rivers of the world. We have 2 million dams damming up the big rivers of the world for water conservation, ironically, and also for irrigation. And so this is why the ocean is dying. That's why the carbon dioxide is going up. They can't figure it out, even though they have 25% less use of fossil fuel right now. The carbon dioxide level is as high as it's ever been. They just said that yesterday. They're scratching their heads. Well, that's because They've dammed up the rivers. They cut off the food supply to the algae and the green.
The other plant life.
All the plant life in the ocean. Okay, the
Yeah.
algae and the seaweed and all that kind of stuff. And so they're the ones that use the carbon dioxide. Okay, and I keep telling them we've got to go through the dams. We don't have to cut off people's electricity. Go through the dams, over the dams, around the dams with an auger and get all that silt and everything that's been stacking up there for 25, 30, 40, 50 years. In the meantime, let's use some of our blooming minerals around each of these reefs and rebuild it in weeks.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Although I mean, I'm 10 miles as the crow flies from one of the very first dams. But it just amazes me, Dr. Wallach, how mankind has gone in and thought that they can improve on a perfect creation.
Okay, well, I'm working on a book. You may think it's too, what should I say? I don't know. People are scratching. Well, it'll be controversial because it's going to be called. Okay, it's going to be called the Third Testament. There's the Old Testament, the New Testament. It's been 2,000 years since the New Testament. It's time for the Third Testament. Okay, and I'm going to go back to the beginning of time. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, was that over a 15-minute period? 15 days, 15 years, 15,000 years? And because it jumps right then into the, the Old Testament and the Garden of Eden and all that kind of stuff. Well, what happened? How long did it take him to create the heavens and earth? They didn't have telescopes back then. They knew the moon, and you could just tell from the language. The sun came up in the morning. The sun set at night. Mm-hmm. No, the sun never moved.
Right.
The earth was changing. Okay. And they didn't know about Mars and Saturn and Uranus and all that kind of stuff because they didn't have telescopes to see all those other planets. They could see stars at night. They couldn't differentiate between stars and planets and things like that back then. Okay. And so everything from that point backwards, they knew nothing. And so we have mummies now that have smallpox. Chinese mummies go back 3,000 years. We also have mummies from some of these hominids, like 2 million years before Homo sapiens. They lived for 1 million years and died out. And I figure God tried several things and didn't kind of work out. And finally he said, enough is enough. I'm going to make man in my own image. And that one worked. And that one worked.
Yeah.
Why did Henry Ford call the Model T the Model T? Because models A through S didn't work.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to be my next book coming out. I'm getting excited about that.
All right. We look forward to that. We do. And, everybody, I just want to thank you so much for joining us in the Ask Doc Live program today. We have lots of questions. And please, as you're listening and you hear one of the questions come up in regards to somebody's health and it resembles yours, your protocol that Dr. Wallach is giving this person is going to be very similar to what he's sharing. Okay, so keep in mind, because I know sometimes we'll have a question. Well, what do I take for diabetes? Well, we just answered that. So please pay attention. We want to make sure we get to a bunch of different situations so that we can be a better resource to more people.
Yeah, but Rebecca, we have a program for over 600 different diseases. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's why we have all the books and CDs and stuff like that, because people aren't going to remember my lecture when I talk about maybe 8 or 10 or 12 different diseases. They won't remember that, let alone 600. Right. So we have the books and the CDs and DVDs, and you give out phone numbers and websites where they can get those books and CDs, right?
Absolutely.
Well, there you go.
We have Dr. Wallach's most popular books at AskDocLive.com, and all of his publications can be found at DRJ Wallach, that's WALLACH sundayspm230pm. You'll find all of his publications there. Dr. Wallach, real quick before we move on, and I know this front portion has been longer than usual, but John had made a comment about not all meat being equal, and he wants to know what you think about the supermarket meat, where the last 3 months it's fattened on grains for most meat. What is your response to that? What is your feeling as far as, like the beef being grain finished? I know it adds marbling and fat to the meats, but share with us a little bit on your thoughts there.
Okay, well, you have to appreciate, again, the farmer makes his money by tonnage, whether it's vegetables or grain or meat. He makes money by tonnage, not by the nutritional value of it. Okay, now, and what they do is they actually take cows and goats and sheep off a pasture, and they put them, as you say, for 3 months, 90 days in a feedlot. That's what they call it, a feedlot. And they give them a diet that's low in nutrition, so that they'll eat and eat and eat and eat, but it's high in calories and grain, because they want to put fat on the cattle, okay, because it cooks up nicely, it's tasty, it looks good, it smells good, and the protein is good. I mean, I eat lamb chops 2 nights a week, medium rare. I eat a steak for breakfast 2 days a week, along with my eggs and my rice and my smoked salmon from the Alaska, wild salmon. 3 nights a week, I have pizza, and 2 breakfasts in the morning. I have pizza with a cauliflower crust. It's gluten-free, has 4 cheeses and 8 vegetables on it. Okay, but the meat fattened, it's a very efficient way to get the animals to gain a couple 100 pounds very quickly. And that's why they do that, because they sell the meat by pounds, by tonnage.
That's right. That's right. All right, so let's get into some questions. But before we do, I just want to remind everybody that if you hear anything about a product that you want to give a shot to, get with the person that invited you to this program. Okay, they have a vested interest in you. They want to make sure that you are getting the information and the products you need to be able to achieve optimal health. For those of you who have never tried the products, you weren't brought here by any specific person that's near and dear to you, then we do have our website that has all of the products that are going to be mentioned here today. There is a store there at asdoclive.com where you can get the products that Dr. Wallach mentions. We also do have a call team for those of you who have, again, never tried the products, you've never spoken to anybody about them, at 855-949-7234. That is our call team. Dr. Wallach, let's get to our first question. Okay. We have a young man. He is 23 years old, 5'5", 105 pounds. He was put on medications in the 3rd grade for ADHD. And a year later, he started having lots of digestive problems, including an oozing fistula. So he had a lot of oozing out of the rectum. We've been working with this young man for over a year now, and he has had some amazing improvements. I mean, he's having regular bowel movements, his moods, his behavior, everything is just incredible now. But we're still getting that oozing from a fistula that's not healing. It's an internal fistula that's not healing.
Okay,
What
now let me ask you something. You said he has skin issues?
Not anymore.
Okay, he did have skin issues.
Yeah.
Okay, did he have any asthma or respiratory stuff?
He's overcome all that as well.
Okay, good. So we're on the right track here. let's see here. The rectal fistulas are usually caused by hemorrhoids. Does he have any varicose veins in his legs? You know,
Not anymore.
he did.
He did have some, yes. So
Spider
answer your
veins, varicose
question.
veins. Yeah.
Yes.
Did he have any gray or white hair in his beard or his hair?
No.
Okay, well, look close. Okay. Now, yeah, the fistulas and things like varicose veins and hemorrhoids are all caused by the same deficiency. Ruptured aortic aneurysms are caused by the same deficiency. White, gray, and silver hair, regardless of age, are caused by the same deficiency. You remember a guy by the name of Michael Jackson?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. A black kid, great singer, great entertainer. By the time he was like 14, 15 years old, his hair was snow white. He had to wear a wig. Okay. His skin was snow white, like typing paper. He wore gloves with jewels on it. He wore turtlenecks and long sleeve shirts, never wore shorts or bathing suits. He just took, what should I say, medication for something like prednisone and cortisone because doctors felt he had an autoimmune disease and that's what was going on there. No, he had a simple deficiency because he was eating gluten. He couldn't absorb that nutrient. That nutrient causes white hair, varicose veins, hemorrhoids, and also ruptured aneurysms in the brain and aorta. It's all caused by deficiency of that one nutrient. So this guy here, I want him to have, and you've probably already done this, I want him to have, just for all the rest of the listening audience, I want him to get rid of all the bad foods and maximize absorption. No fried foods, no processed meats, even nitrate-free bacon still has 8 other chemicals in it. Still can't have that, okay? Can't have nitrate-free bacon either. No oils of any kind. And then he needs to have no gluten, no wheat, no barley, rye, and oats, no sugar. And that's going to help him increase the efficiency of absorption of these nutrients. And I want him to have 1 healthy brain and heart pack per month. I want him to get another bottle of selenium, not from Walgreens, but selenium because it has 5 cofactors in it. One of which is the thing when it's deficient gives you all these problems that he has that Michael Jackson had. People say, well, tell me which one it is. Tell me which one it is. No, I learned a long time ago, if I tell them which one it is, they run to the drugstore and get that one, they take it, and then they die because they're missing the other 89. Okay. And so we came up with a program, and you have to take the whole program, and then it works. Okay. And but this is a lifetime deal, not until he feels better. This is a lifetime deal. I've been doing it for 73 years. And again, you know, most people think I'm in my late 40s or early 50s. And I've been doing the gluten-free and the 90 essential nutrients twice a day for 73 years. Okay. And so it's one of those things where this kid can get 100% here if he'll do exactly as I said. Let's see here. I would also throw in our seaweed. Okay, it's called Fucoid Z. He can take that 3 capsules twice a day. I do that. If he prefers the liquid, the same exact product in the liquid form is called Z Radical. He could take a tablespoon of that twice a day, so 1 quart will last him a month. And let's go with that. Oh, vitamin D3. He should probably take some vitamin D3 so he can absorb some minerals, put them in his bones. And MSM for his bone marrow. He can take 1 bottle a month of the MSM, take 3 of those twice a day. And people say, well, you know, you're kind of stacking them up there. Well, first of all, I don't make a single penny from the sale of the products. Okay. Number 2, I'm looking to make sure he's getting everything he needs because he can't plan on it being in the food. When do you stop needing oxygen? When do you stop needing water? When do you stop needing the 90 essential nutrients? So are you going to say, well, I only take, you know, the 90 essential nutrients on Christmas and Easter and stuff like that. The rest of the year, I just eat well. Okay, well, that's not going to work. You're not going to live till next year. Okay.
This is true. This is true. All right. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Wallach. So we are real close to the top of the hour. Do you want to take 5 minutes now, or shall we go to our first hand raise?
Yeah, let's go to another caller or hand raise.
All right, Jane, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm certainly doing much better. I've been taking the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack and the Daily Classic. My blood pressure has certainly done much, much better. And I'm a little more awake. I'm taking I think 6 tablets of the Sweeties. I think I had some glucose problems.
Mhm.
Although I still fell asleep this morning a bit while listening to you. But what has fostered my call is that I saw the cardiologist on Tuesday, and she announced that I had atrial fibrillation and would, quote, need a blood thinner. And she had Eliquis, Xarelto, warfarin. She named these medications, and I wondered what you had this thought about.
Okay. Okay. Now, are you coloring your hair at all, or is that your normal hair color?
No, it's darkened quite a bit from.
Okay. So when you're taking the supplements, the hair color is coming back.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, do you have any varicose veins or hemorrhoids?
No, I have had hemorrhoids, but that
Okay.
seems to be getting better.
Okay, good. Now, what about any tinnitus or ringing in the ears?
I still have it. I've had
Okay.
it for years, but it seems to be getting, I haven't gotten rid of it yet, though.
But it's getting better, but it's moving in the right direction.
I think so.
Okay, good. Did you ever have Bell's palsy or trigeminal neuralgia?
I don't know what they are, but I don't think so.
Oh, well, you'd know if you had it. Okay. What about, do you have anything going on in your wrist and fingers and hands, trigger fingers, numbness or tingling in your hands and wrists?
No, but I talked to you a few weeks ago. I said my hands had gotten cold. They're getting warmer.
Okay, good.
So it's
Okay.
and, yeah.
Okay, here we go. You have osteoporosis of the skull.
Right.
You probably had it for 10 years, okay? And so that's why your tinnitus is getting better. That's a squeezing of the auditory branch of the eighth cranial nerve by your skull when you have osteoporosis of the skull. AFib is a squeezing of the 10th cranial nerve by your skull when you have osteoporosis of the skull, and it causes an irregular heartbeat. And also it can cause gastroparesis, a lot of pain in the stomach, which doctors say you got a gastric ulcer and they want to take part of your stomach out, kind of thing. But there's actually a book out. It's called It's All in Your Head, deals with the 25 different diseases you get when you have osteoporosis of the skull. So you need to read this. And if you want to do something for your friends, make sure that they each get one of those during Christmas or birthdays or whenever you're going to give them a present. And it'll be tax deductible for you and your business. But AFib goes away very quickly. But you want to be sure to use that Ultimate Daily Classic tablets, Ultimate Daily Classic tablets. There's an Ultimate Daily Liquid, which is a multiple. You don't want that. You want for this particular issue, you want the Ultimate Daily Classic tablets. 3 of those. How much do you weigh now?
123.
Okay, so I'd go ahead and get 2 bottles of the Ultimate Daily Classic tablets. You can take 3 of those twice a day or 2 or 3 times a day for a total of 6 a day. And that's going to help you with supporting healthy blood pressure, healthy blood flow through blocked arteries. Don't forget the MSM. Take
Right.
3 of those twice a day is 1 bottle a month. Vitamin D3, 3 of those twice a day is 2 bottles a month. And then don't forget the collagen. Don't forget the glucogel or the collagen peptides. You want 2 doses a day. I take 3. I only weigh 142, but I take 3. That's why I'm 82 years old and don't have any of those problems. But AFib will go away. The medical treatment for it is what they call ablation, where they anesthetize you. They cut your chest open and put hot soldering irons in your heart, try to kill the part of the heart that's doing crazy things, and they kill you. Okay, they actually killed Elijah Cummings, who is a U.S. representative from Baltimore, Maryland. They killed him. Johns Hopkins killed him in the surgery room because he had AFib. Instead of coming to me where I could heal him in a couple of weeks, he let them cut his chest open because they're Johns Hopkins, they're very famous. And they cut his chest open, put the soldering iron on his heart and killed him instantly right there in front of 10 students.
So would you take I'm going to be taking, these various tests. Would you take these blood thinner things, or should I put it off?
Well, I would do the test. I mean, we're talking about they're not going to stick things in your arteries and all that kind of stuff.
No, they're going to do the echocardiogram.
Okay, that's fine. Echocardiogram is fine. Non-invasive. Okay, there's nothing wrong with your heart. But in their little pea brains, they want you to think that AFib is a heart problem. No, it's osteoporosis of the skull, squeezing the 10th cranial nerve, the vagus nerve, which controls the rate and rhythm of the heart. One last question. Do you ever have any COPD or hiccups?
No.
Okay. All right. That's a squeezing of the 10th cranial nerve, which controls the diaphragm as well. There's a recurrent nerve branch that does that. When that gets squeezed, you get the hiccups. So, people say, man, I get the hiccups for like 10 minutes a day. Okay, that's usually because they have osteoporosis of the skull, even if they're only 15 years old. Age is not an age thing. Doctor said, oh, you have osteoporosis. You got to expect that you're 75 years old. No, that's not true. You can be born with osteoporosis. A mother doesn't have the nutrition to make your bones healthy as an embryo.
Okay.
It's not an aging thing. It's a nutritional deficiency. Okay. Well, thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Let us know what the echocardiogram says. But just remind them, ask them if they've ever heard of reversing it with nutrition. And they'll laugh and say, no, you're going to need ablation. And that's when you say, well, I'm going to get another opinion. I'll let you know later, but don't put me on your list yet. Okay.
Thank you.
You bet.
All right, fabulous, Jane. And I was noticing how much darker your hair is looking, and more color in your skin as well, my dear. You're looking.
Isn't that amazing?
It is. It is. It is. Now, Dr. Wallach, one thing that I've learned is essential fatty acids are nature's natural blood thinner.
That's right.
That's something in the brain and heart pack. We've got two different forms of essential fatty acids, so you want to make sure you take those.
Yeah, and there's a lot of it in there, and people say, well, there's so many, I'll just take one a day to last me a year. No, don't do that. You got to take the right dose. I take 3 of the EFAs twice a day. I take 3 of the EFA pluses twice a day, and I eat my eggs with the soft yolks 3 twice a day. So I'm getting plenty of that. I'll never have a blood clot. I'll never have an aneurysm. I don't have any varicose veins. I don't have high blood pressure, diabetes. I don't have any of that stuff. I don't have any osteoporosis of the skull. Don't have any ringing in my ears. I never had Bell's palsy, no trigeminal neuralgia. I don't have any ONA, optic nerve atrophy. I was born with eye problems. My mom was deficient in stuff and damaged my eyes, but I haven't gotten any worse in 83 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. So folks, please realize you're worth it. To really take and empower yourselves and make that investment into your own health.
Now, let me stop you there, and then I need to run to a break. But
yes,
if you do this as a business in your business plan, you can say that your longevity business will pay for your supplements. So you get your supplements for free, and the your longevity business that buys them for you gets a tax deduction because it's part of the benefits you get as the owner of your business. Because you think all these companies that give benefits to their employees, those are all tax deductible. They're not losing any money by giving those benefits to their employees. Employees happy, plus they're tax deductible. Same way. Get a hold of that book, Wall Street for Kids. It'll tell you how to make a good business plan so you can get all those tax deductions, including your free supplements. And if you get on auto ship, I pay the shipping. Doesn't get better than that.
That's right. That's right. What I make far pays for, my supplements. And I take a lot of supplements. So, all right, let's go ahead and take a break. And as Dr. Wallach has taken the break, then I want to remind everybody that the content of this program is to provide nutritional education information only. This program is not meant to take the place of your primary care physician. And the FDA requires us to let you know that our products are not meant to treat, prevent, diagnose, or cure any diseases. As empowered individuals, though, I really want to encourage you to invest in your own health. Be proactive in your own health and not dependent on chemicals, because when you give the body the raw ingredients that it needs to survive, it doesn't just survive, it thrives. So we will be right back after the short break. Don't go anywhere. We have hands raised, questions coming, and we will get to you. Have a great one.
I'm back.
And you beat me back, Dr. Wallach. Just barely, but you did. Awesome. Welcome back, everybody, to the Ask Doc Live program. Again, please get with the person that invited you to this program. If you would like to ask any questions about the product, if you want to get on the product, especially get with the person that invited you to this program. for those of you who don't have anybody that referred you to this program, we do have a store that's available at AskDocLive.com that is there for you. We also have a call team that is standing by at 855-949-7234 that is available to help you with getting the products that you need on their way to you. And Dr. Wallach, I just, the improvements that I myself have found with your product, I am, 5 years this month, Dr. Wallach, actually 5 years last month. I just can't believe the difference in my own health, where I was bedridden. I had fibromyalgia. I had migraines nonstop, degenerative bone and disc disease, really bad metabolic syndrome, torn hip capsule, herniated discs, pain from compression fractures in my
You had
spine.
bad genes.
I am not accepting that. But
I'm
that's
sure
what
that's
I was
what
told.
Yeah, by your doctors, yeah.
That's what I was told. I mean, my aunt had issues. My mom had issues. All of these things, and I'm so thankful that I never went under the knife, because I don't have to overcome surgical mishaps, that have affected their lives forever.
Yeah, the surgery was a success, but the patient died.
Well, no, they didn't die. They're just, having to struggle with no longer having balance,
Mm-hmm.
because an optic nerve from removing a brain tumor was cut, or a cage that was put to hold the spine upright failed. It's like, okay, your bones are disintegrating, yet we're going to put this metal device in you, and it's supposed to hold you up, and no, you won't see it through your skin. And oh my goodness, beautiful 5'7" can no longer stand up past 4'9", Dr. Wallach, and the cage is visible. It kills me, folks, to have so many people not thinking that what they put in their mouth has anything to do with what their body is doing. So,
It's an education, that's for sure.
Dr. Wallach, you have made such an impact in my life. And
Well, I love your
everybody-
story. Thank you for sharing. And you've lost how much weight?
95 pounds. I'm no longer on pain medications, because that's where they sent me to pain management, Dr. Wallach. They had nothing else they could do for me. And now I'm running up and down stairs. I'm playing outside and sledding with my grandkids and my son. I have no restrictions. I can go running now without having severe pain in my ankles and my knees.
Well, here's what you want to do, Rebecca. Read the obituaries every day in the newspaper and look for your doctor. Be sure you go to his funeral.
I'm not going to do that because you're my doctor.
Oh.
Oh, no. I'm not doing that. I'm
Okay.
going to meet my doctor every Friday and spread the news.
Well, there you go. Now, before we go to another caller, I want to give you one more comparison here. The UK, okay, which is England, Northern Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, right? The United Kingdom. They have 67 million people. I'm going to compare it with a classic Asian island nation, Thailand, okay, with 67 million people. So Thailand has 95 dead. England has 127,000 dead, or UK. UK has 4.3 million infections, and Thailand has 29,000 infections. So what's the difference? There's a huge difference there between 4.3 million infections versus 29,000. Big difference between 127,000 dead versus 95 dead. Well, England and the UK were the biggest wheat, barley, rye, and oat eaters in the world, and they took it around the world. So wherever their sailors went, they could always get some British bread and pancakes and stuff like that. Okay. Whereas Thailand is a classic Asian nation, just like Vietnam. Okay. And they live on maize, corn, rice, sweet potatoes, beans, squash, and algae, seaweed.
I made changes, and you know, we get so accustomed to, oh, I like this, life's short, why not eat what I like? Well, I tell you what, your life's going to be even shorter if you keep that mindset. So
You took the
changing your
words right out of my
mindset.
mouth.
Yeah, I mean, changing the mindset when it comes to food and how worthy I am of being able to make those changes.
Now, Rebecca, would you put dirt from Texas and Oklahoma into your car instead of oil?
No, not even if it's a Hyundai.
Well, come on, because there's bound to be some oil in it. It's dirt from Texas and Oklahoma. Let's see, that's what doctors are doing when they say just eat well. It's the equivalent. And
Yeah.
a crazy person wouldn't do that to their car. Yet when a doctor says, oh, just eat well, don't waste your money on vitamins and minerals, it's because doctors don't have any training in that. They have training on how to manage symptoms. Now, people are happy. Oh man, I was in pain for 20 years. My doctor gave me this new opioid. In 3 days, the pain was gone. I just love my doctor. I'm going to put him in my will. I'm going to leave him everything. I'm so happy. And then 2 years later, you need a double knee replacement for $100,000.
Well, and then in my case, you're allergic to opioids and the doctor gave it to you and almost killed you. So yeah, no, he's out of here. He's out of here. But let's go to our next hand, Dr. Wallach. And
Okay.
Susan, I don't know if you have your hand up for somebody else, but go ahead and unmute yourself. You are on live with Dr. Wallach.
Oh, thank you so much. This is for a friend of mine, Bill. And Bill has diabetes, and I wrote in the chat about 15 or 20 different medications. He's obviously on insulin. I don't think I can even pronounce them all, but he has
That's all right.
hyperlipidemia, hypertension, osteoarthritis, chronic history of adenomatosis, a polyp of the colon, diabetes type 2, neuropathy, edema, swelling of the legs, diabetes type 2, HDL and high triglycerides, low HDL.
Okay, that's enough. How much?
Of the aorta. He's 70. He's 74, 185 pounds, 6'1". His hair is gray.
Okay, very good. Yeah. And of course, he's got a dozen different diseases here. And if he runs into that COVID virus with all these pre-existing conditions, he's going to have a real difficult time here. He's set up for a bad outcome. You need to get him one of those CDs called the red warning lights, goes into 8 or 9 of these pre-existing conditions and tells you why you're going to get the COVID if you don't get rid of those. All of these are nutritional deficiencies. None of them are genetic. None of them are autoimmune. So at 185 pounds, he needs to get rid of all the bad foods. No fried foods, no processed meats, no oils, no glutens, no wheat, brown rye oats, no sugar. And we said earlier, when people have varicose veins and they have that sort of stuff, hemorrhoids, spider veins, they're going to have gray hair. And when they have gray hair, they're going to have those other issues and also get a breakdown in the walls of the arteries. And that's why he's got some things going on in his arteries, arteriosclerosis, maybe a coronary arteries or the aorta. Osteoarthritis, he's got peripheral neuropathies, okay, diabetes. So here we go. He needs to get rid of all the bad foods, no fried foods, no processed meats, no oils, no glutens, no wheat, brown rye oats, no sugar. And then at 185 pounds, I want him to have 2 healthy brain and heart packs per month. 2 healthy brain and heart packs per month, a full dose, everything twice a day. I want him to get 2 bottles a month of our MSM, so I can take 3 of those with each meal. And they're designed to support and promote maintenance repair of cartilage, ligaments, tendons, connective tissue, disc between the vertebrae, excuse me, bone matrix, artery walls, vein walls. Also needs vitamin D3, 3 of those twice a day. That's 2 bottles a month to help absorb minerals and put them in the right places. I would also have him take the Ultimate Daily Classic tablets, take 3 of those 3 times a day. It's going to help get blood flowing through the blocked arteries and also support healthy blood pressure. I want him to have our Sweeties, take 3 of those twice a day. That's 2 bottles a month. And also our glucogenics, take 3 of those at lunchtime. And don't let him cold turkey off his medications he's taking for diabetes. But as his A1C and also his blood sugar begins to come down, he can slowly reduce his medication based on the numbers. So it's going to be a gradual reduction in the medications. And So that's kind of the way I would go. And let's see here. All of these things are going to go away. Okay, including the hair color will come back and so forth. That's telling you that things are healing and so on. Oh, and the colon issues, these are a gluten issue. Okay, and so that'll go away as soon as he gets off of gluten, but he's got to stay away from gluten forever. Everybody in the household. And people say to me, well, can I go to a restaurant? Well, what you want to do and see if they have a gluten-free, gluten-safe place by itself, or is it, you know, you just have to sit with everybody else and the waitress is delivering you your salad because you're not going to eat gluten, but she's delivered 8 loaves of bread to 8 other tables before she got to you. She's covered in gluten dust. And so you have to pay attention to that and say, is it worth going to that spaghetti factory? Okay, because they don't have a separate place with the airflow right and all that kind of stuff to keep me gluten free. So you may want to have to look around to find a place that does that. But yeah, this will all go away.
And very fortunate, Dr. Wallach, that there are more and more places that are coming up as gluten-free establishments.
That's correct.
So that is encouraging, very encouraging. All right, next let's go to a comment question.
Okay.
And the question is, for an 80-year-old male, I believe, 80-year-old male, 5'10", 170 pounds. I asked that question last week. But polymyalgia rheumatica. Symptoms include bilateral hip, outer thigh, shoulder, upper arm, neck, upper back, lower back, and buttocks are sore and ache. It occurred rapidly within the last month, and straighten the pain is not in the joints. So Dr. Wallach, what would you recommend for this gentleman?
Okay, well, this guy's got a gluten problem. Okay, and he's probably not supplementing correctly on top of that. This is a combination of things. He's got arthritis, he's got fibromyalgia, he may have some skin issues, eczema, dermatitis, psoriasis. And so his doctor is looking at him saying, hey, you got an autoimmune disease here, polymyalgia rheumatica. I don't think he's got a positive RA test. If he does, he can take the, let's see here, the minocycline antibiotic for 6 to 8 weeks, and it will kill the RA factor bug, which is called the mycoplasma. But if he doesn't have the RA factor, he doesn't need the minocycline antibiotic. But 170 pounds, he needs to get rid of all the bad foods, no fried foods, no processed meats. This will sound familiar. No oils, no gluten, no wheat, bran, rye, oats, no sugar. And then he needs 2 healthy brain and heart packs per month, to full dose everything twice a day. I want him to have 2 bottles a month of the MSM, so he can take 3 with each meal. It's going to support and promote maintenance repair of cartilage, ligaments, tendons, connective tissue, disc between vertebrae, bone, mixture, bone itself, and the connective tissue holding the muscles together and the muscles to the tendons and ligaments and so on. Let's see here. I would also throw in, at his age, the Ultimate Daily Classic tablets. You can take 3 of those twice a day, 2 bottles a month. They're going to support healthy blood flow into the muscles and the bones and so forth, support healthy blood pressure. And if I didn't say it, he needs the vitamin D3, 3 of those twice a day to help absorb minerals and put them in the bones in the right places. But all this goes away. This is all nutritional deficiency diseases that are secondary to a gluten containing diet and no supplementation.
All right, thank you, Dr. Wallach. Next, we have Roxy with her hand up. Roxy, if you could go ahead and turn your camera on and unmute yourself. You are on live with Dr. Wallach.
Hi.
There you
Hi.
are.
Hi,
Hi, Roxy.
how are you?
Okay, how can we help you?
I actually started the Atkins diet last May during COVID because I was starting to put on that COVID extra poundage, and I ran into an old book that I had.
Okay, stop. Are you positive for COVID?
No.
Okay. Okay,
No,
okay.
I just wanted to be healthier. I was overweight, and anyway, so I lost 45 pounds.
Good.
How
How much do you weigh now?
155,
Okay, how tall are you?
5'8".
Okay, and how old are you?
I'm a few thousand heartbeats away from 60.
Okay, and are you coloring your hair, or wearing a wig, or is that your hair color?
That's my natural hair color.
Okay, so you're a redhead.
Yes, I am.
All right.
And
So-
yeah, I'm fortunate. All my girlfriends have been dyeing their hair for years, and I'm the only one who doesn't. So that's a good thing.
It's a good sign.
Yeah, and it's actually getting darker since I've been pretty much gluten-free. Now, I had a piece of bread for New Year's Eve, and I had strudel for Easter, but really I've been pretty good about it. And I feel amazing because I really believe that
So
gluten.
what can we help you? What can we help you with today?
Well, I went to the dentist yesterday, and he saw my nose and he said, "When's the last time you had your nose checked?" And I said, "I haven't."
Do you have teeth in
And
your nose?
It's he's suggesting that it might be a basal carcinoma, which probably goes right along with being a redhead, right? I've never had this stuff before, but this came on though before I started gluten free, and it used to bleed and it doesn't anymore. But I was wondering, I really don't want to go to the doctor. I'm on no medication. My blood pressure is great.
Okay,
I'm
well, we need to keep moving here. So there is a a non-invasive test like an ultrasound. You wouldn't hurt for you to have that and see if there is a mass in there, or if he was imagining things. Okay, so I would go and get an ultrasound, which is non-invasive.
okay.
Okay, so yeah, I wouldn't let them start digging around in there, obviously. Do you have any high blood pressure or diabetes?
No.
Okay, do you have any arthritis or joint pain?
Well, before I did this diet, I sure did. My ankles cracked since I was a teenager. My knees were bad. Now I'm walking the hills in this area. I mean, I'm feeling like $1,000,000 bucks.
Okay, well, here we go. So, and again, it's for the, we have all these listening audience, so they need to know too. You need to get rid of all the bad foods and no cheating, even once in a lifetime. Got to stop cheating. And you can't cook, you can't cook bad food for other people. Okay, in other words, you can't be cooking for somebody in your household and making pancakes for them. Well, I don't eat the pancakes. I eat rice for breakfast, but I make pancakes for my husband. Well, you're still getting the gluten. You're
Right.
getting cross-contaminated, right?
Well,
Can't do that.
I live alone, but
Okay.
on occasion I have guests, and I like to bake, and I do use my bread maker for guests.
Okay, well, you're putting yourself in danger when you do that. So here we go.
Okay.
No gluten, no wheat, brown, rye, oats, no sugar. Then at 155 pounds, I want you to have 2 healthy brain and heart packs per month. That's our big hammer in the toolbox right now because of the pandemic. 2 healthy brain and heart packs, full dose everything twice a day. I also want you to get our MSM. Take 3 of those twice a day as 1 bottle a month. It's a big bottle. You can do that. And it helps rebuild cartilage, ligaments, tendons, connective tissue, disc between the vertebrae, bone makes bone itself, skin, all that kind of stuff. And then I want you to have the vitamin D3, 3 of those twice a day. It'll help you absorb minerals and put them in your bones in the proper places. And then because you have a history of some nosebleeds, I also want you to take our Ultimate Daily Classic tablets. Go ahead and take 3 of those twice a day. That'll prevent blood clots. It'll also support healthy blood flow through blocked arteries and all that kind of stuff. But it wouldn't hurt to get a non-invasive ultrasound. It wouldn't hurt to do that. And then I would also take our seaweed. Okay. I take 2. We have many sources of seaweed in Young Joey, but I take 2 of them. I take 3 of the capsules twice a day of the Fucoid Z. It's from one ocean. And then I take 3 capsules twice a day of our Ocean's Gold, which is from the other ocean. And so I'm getting the trace minerals from the 2 different oceans. Okay. And so I think that's very useful also for your bone marrow, because you may not be making enough platelets. Okay. If you're not getting enough of those trace minerals to make your bone marrow happy, to make the platelets to prevent the bleeding. So we want to kind of go that direction. Did the doctors ever say you were anemic or you had low platelets or anything like that?
No.
Okay. Pay attention. And, if he says, we need to do a blood test, we'll say, well, you're doing a blood test. We make sure that they count the platelets and my red blood cells, see if I'm anemic or have low platelets, because I'd like to know that.
Well,
Okay.
the bleeding was only from that sore on my nose. I didn't have nosebleeds, just from
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. We'll call us every 2 weeks.
Okay. Thank you so much. And it's a
Okay.
pleasure to meet you. And you look
Okay.
fabulous.
Not bad for 82. Okay,
Yeah.
Roxy.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
Awesome. Thank you, Roxy. Thank you, Dr. Wallach. So this kind of leads into my next question.
Okay.
We have an elderly woman. She's about 80 years old and is hospitalized right now because of low blood platelet count. Now, Dr. Wallach, she doesn't drink much as far as water or any fluids goes. She
Mhm.
does take the supplementation. But what more? I mean, brain and heart pack has the osteo effects. We've got her on digestive enzymes to help
Do we
with
know how much
digestion.
do we know how much she weighs?
142.
Okay. Well, when you have low blood platelets, that means your bone marrow is not getting what it needs to make the platelets. That's just that simple. A lot of times we'll give transfusions from a younger, healthy person, and give you platelets by transfusion, but they never give you anything to help your bone marrow make more platelets. Okay, so she's got a gluten problem. She's got to get off of gluten. She can't be cooking for anybody else, anything like that. She's got to be drop dead gluten free. And 142 pounds, I would have her take, she's right at that cusp. So she might start out with one healthy brain and heart pack per month, get another bottle of our selenium, not from Costco's, okay, or Walgreens, or selenium, because it has 5 cofactors in it that are necessary for the bone marrow to make the platelets. Okay, I want her to take 6 of those a day, 2 with each meal or 3 twice a day, whatever is easier for her. And then I also want her to have the vitamin D3. She can take 3 of those twice a day. That's 2 bottles a month. It's going to help rebuild bones, bone matrix, that sort of stuff, because her bone marrow is dying is what's happening here. Okay, and it's not uncommon in people in 80, but it's not uncommon now today in people who are in their 20s and 30s and 40s. They have low platelets and they're anemic, and doctors try to give them iron, prescription for iron and B12 pills. Doesn't work orally because they're eating gluten, they can't absorb it. So they got to come in once a month for an injection. They get tired of that. And they say, well, I can give you a transfusion once every couple of months, give you some platelets, red blood cells. Well, I got sick for 10 days after I had the transfusion. You got anything else? Yeah, we can give you a bone marrow transplant. It's $100,000, but don't worry about it. Your insurance will pay for it. Okay, and so that's how doctors move along and move you along the path and milk your insurance policy.
Yeah, it's that gives me the chills even thinking about a bone marrow transplant. No, thank you. All right. So let's go to a question that came in through an email. And this young lady is 68 years old, 5 foot 1.5 inches tall, 124 pounds. And she has broken blood vessels behind her right retina. Vision is obscured for 3 to 4 days, comes back halfway after that. And she sure doesn't want to lose her vision. She's not taking any supplementations at this time, but she's heard you on the radio and she wants to know what she can do to correct the lost vision so far and prevent it from happening again.
Okay, well, she may have what's called ONA, optic nerve atrophy. Okay, and I've won many a wager from doctors, okay, over that one. When you have osteoporosis of the skull, and again, 68 years old, it's not something that's uncommon in people that age. Osteoporosis of the skull, squeezing the second cranial nerve, which is the optic nerve, ONA. So as the skull squeezes that optic nerve, okay, you get the problem, and then you go to sleep, you relax and so forth. A lot of, things happen when you're asleep, good healing stuff. And so the skull releases a little bit of the pressure on that nerve at night. So you wake up in the morning, you're a little bit better. kind of thing. That's very typical of osteoporosis of the skull, squeezing the second cranial nerve, the optic nerve, ONA, optic nerve atrophy. So at 124 pounds, she needs to get rid of all the bad stuff. No fried foods, no processed meats, no oils, no glutens, no wheat, bran, no sugar. And have her take one healthy brain and heart pack per month. Have her get another bottle of our selenium, again for the cofactors in there, not from Walgreens or Costco's. And I want her to take 3 twice a day or 2, 3 times a day for a total of 6 a day of our selenium, those cofactors to help her help rebuild the skull. I want her to take the MSM. She can take 1 bottle a month of that. So take 3 twice a day to help rebuild cartilage, ligaments, tendons, connective tissue, disc between the vertebrae, bone, makes your bone itself. Vitamin D3, 3 of those twice a day, 2 bottles a month. And then the glucogel, I want her to take 5 of those capsules twice a day. That'll be 2 bottles a month. We do have a liquid. If she prefers the liquid, she could take an ounce twice a day. The liquid would be 2 parts a month. Okay, that's going to also help rebuild the skull. 100 years ago, they used to call that Paget's disease, where the skull would go from a 1/4 of an inch thick, which is the normal thickness of a human skull. It's a very thin bone, 1/4 of an inch thick, to an inch thick. Okay, it was called Paget's disease. Now they call it Wallach's disease because Paget thought it was a genetic thing because it would happen in families because they're all eating the same way. And so they all had osteoporosis of the skull, one of those kind of deals. And so you can reverse that very quickly. And I actually did a wager with an eye doctor who says, you can't regain people's vision when they go blind from this. I said, oh yeah, let's have a wager. He said, okay. He gave me 27 of his patients that he diagnosed. So he couldn't wiggle waggle over the diagnosis because he was the one that made the diagnosis. They're all legally blind, 6, 8, 10, 12 years. Make a long story short, I gave him the program we just suggested for this lady. And in 90 days, all 27 could read 20/20 without glasses. They were legally blind 6, 8, 10, 12 years because they had osteoporosis of the skull. And I just helped them rebuild the skull, gave them, that sort of thing, and just all went away.
So, Dr. Wallach, would you recommend anything for the eyes specifically, or this is basically because of the optic nerve atrophy?
Well, I believe it's ONA, but if she wants to do something specifically for the eyes, we have 2 products. One of which is called Vision FX. Take 3 of those twice a day. It's 2 bottles a month. The other one is, let's see here.
Occutive?
Thank you. Occutive. Yeah, Occutive. They come, I think, it's 60 in a bottle. And so she can take 1 twice a day of the Occutive. That'll be 1 bottle a month. And, don't forget, she should be eating eggs with soft yolks, 2 or 3 of those twice a day. Do not get on statin drugs to lower cholesterol. Do not get on statin drugs to lower cholesterol. Cholesterol makes up 95% of estrogen and progesterone and testosterone, and also makes up 75% of your brain weight, including your optic nerve. So you do want to be eating those eggs, not fried, poached, soft boiled, soft scrambled butter.
Absolutely. All right, let's go to our next hand. And before we do, I just want to remind everybody that you can find the products that Dr. Wallach is mentioning today at AskDocLive.com in our store. But again, if somebody shared this program with you, get back with them. They have a special way to get the products for you as well. And because they have a vested interest in you, we want to make sure that they are there to support you in making sure that your health journey is an optimal one. So Mike, if you could go ahead and unmute yourself and turn your camera on, please, sir, if you would.
Can't turn camera on, have a technical problem on this end, maybe another week or 2 to get it fixed.
All right. What is your question for Dr. Wallach today?
Well, kind of a couple in a reference to a book. The first question is, or basic problem I have is I have bleeding gums. I have a large lower jaw molar that has a big cavity. I think we lost the filling in it. And my question is, if I go to the dentist, he will want to pull the tooth, or do I stay on Dr. Wallach's products for a long-term solution to the problem?
Okay, well, I'd be making some phone calls around and see if you can find a dentist, what are their solutions to filling up a hole in your tooth, other than pulling the tooth, okay? there's a possibility, it's not a guarantee, but there is a possibility that you can actually refill in with natural dentine and the inside of the tooth, fill that in with the supplement program, but there's no guarantee because of absorption issues and all that kind of stuff. How much do you weigh, Mike?
208 at time. I keep losing weight, and that's the other question. On your product, I'm not hungry, and I try 2 eggs a day, at least every morning.
Did you say fry?
Oh, absolutely not. I'm using a conical geometry to create the egg process so that I don't cook the yellows.
Okay, good. All right. So what you said you had 2 issues. Okay, so the tooth is one, is bleeding gums the other one, is that it?
Yes.
Okay, and you weigh 208 pounds. Okay, so here's what I would do. Yeah, I'd call around and find out what, from say 10 different dentists, what the options are for a hole in your tooth. Say you don't want to pull the tooth, what's my options? And then I would get rid of all the bad foods. No fried, and you're doing some of this, but it's for our greater listening audience also. None of the bad foods, no fried foods, no processed meats, no oils, no glutens, no wheat, bran, oats, no sugar. I'd have you take 2 healthy brain and heart packs per month, a full dose, everything twice a day. I want you to take our MSM, take 3 of those twice a day. There's 1 bottle a month, and they will promote maintenance, repair of cartilage, ligaments, tendons, connective tissue, disc, between vertebrae, bone matrix, including teeth. Okay. Also vitamin D3, so you can absorb the minerals and put them in your bones. 3 of those twice a day. That's 2 bottles a month. I would also take the glucogel, 5 of those capsules twice a day. That's 2 bottles a month. And then it wouldn't hurt for you to make sure that you snack properly, and it doesn't hurt to eat 3. Don't forget, you can eat 3 meals a day with a snack before you go to bed and maintain your weight. That's what I do, because I was starting to lose weight too some years ago, and I didn't want to lose weight. So I began to have a kind of like a half hour before bedtime. I would have one of our chocolate milkshakes or something like that. So I kind of wound it down to now a half hour before bedtime. I will have about 1/3 of a pint of gluten-free ice cream. Make sure it's gluten-free ice cream. You cannot have cookies and cream ice cream because maybe the cookies are gluten. Okay. But I like Belgium double chocolate chip kind of stuff. I also like the chocolate vanilla, cherry, let's see here, cherry, mushrooms or whatever it is. Okay. And so as long as you're having gluten-free ice cream, you can actually take some ice cream once or twice a day. That'll help you maintain your weight. Okay, let's see here. We got time for a couple more questions.
Yes, we do. But I'm going to share one of my favorite desserts that's in place of ice cream, Dr. Wallach. And that is using our keto shake. It can be the strawberry, it could be the chocolate cream, either one of those. And mixing it up with I'll do about half a cup of heavy cream and half a cup of half and half. And I'll put that in the blender with a scoop or a half a scoop of our shake mix. And oh my goodness, it is so good.
Yeah, don't make it with water because then you'll lose weight. But doing it with the half and half, that's a good idea.
But it's so good and it's so filling. And it just takes that little bit. As I know some people that you get ice cream, they don't put it in a bowl, they eat the whole quart. There's no portion control. But with this, I'm so satisfied. It's gotten that, craving for something sweet and chocolatey and cold taken care of, and I'm done. I'm good.
All right. All right.
So Dr. Wallach, I just got this text message, and this is coming from a retired oncology surgeon who is crossed over and is one of our amazing distributors. And she says, I just want to share this because it's another client story that is empowering my belief in the longevity products. Yesterday, I heard from my best friend for over 50 years that her husband, who is a new client, was amazed at the 90, the I-20, and the I-26 products that she had recommended for him for abdominal pain and diarrhea. He had been suffering with these for 25 years, Dr. Wallach. He's only been on the products 3 months or 3 weeks, 3 weeks. And is feeling 200% better and no longer having abdominal pain or diarrhea.
Does he think he's dreaming or does he believe it's true?
No, he wants to order again. He doesn't want to run out.
Okay.
So I
Very-
think that's just an incredible testament. I mean, I hear stories like this all of the time.
Yeah.
And that one coming from a retired
medical doctor.
oncology surgeon,
Yeah.
you know, and just her belief in nutrition has just expounded over this last year. And I love the fact that there's more and more coming over and seeing the light, Dr. Wallach, that you have been talking about for
50
25
years.
years that I know, but 50
Yeah.
years altogether. So it's absolutely fantastic. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Thank you for sharing that.
So with that, it kind of goes into the next question that I had. Actually, I didn't even link the two until just now. But this individual has been gluten-free for about 4 years, has taken some supplements, has had lots of stomach issues for many years, including diverticulitis. Last year started to have lots of diarrhea. But when the diarrhea cleared up, she was having lots of gas, a lot of it, constant, every single day, no matter what she ate, and very smelly, to the point where it was hard for her to go into public. She's at her wit's end. And at 56 years old, 185 pounds, 5'7", she would like to know, what would you recommend?
Okay, 5'7", 185 pounds, gas.
Lots of gas, stinky gas.
Stinky gas, okay. SG, okay. So what she needs to do, see, this is all a gluten issue. She needs to get rid of all the bad foods, no fried foods, no processed meats, no oils, no glutens, no wheat, rye, no sugar. At 180 pounds, I wanted to have 2 healthy brain and heart packs per month, full dose everything twice a day. I wanted to have the MSM, 3 of those twice a day. That's 1 bottle a month of the MSM. I wanted to take the vitamin D3, 2 bottles a month of that, so she can take 3 twice a day, absorb the minerals, put them in her bones and skin and cartilage and ligaments and disc between the vertebrae and so forth. But now I also want her to have our Fucoid Z, which is our seaweed. I want her to take 3 of those twice a day. That'll be good for the bone marrow as well as the stomach. I also want her to have our pink Himalayan salt from our savor division, our spice division. She needs to use about start out with 1/4 of a teaspoon to 1/2 a teaspoon of salt with each meal. Could be put on her rice or sweet potatoes, her meat, her salads. Has 84 minerals in it, the pink Himalayan salt. And the salt will actually help with digestion, help keep the pH of the stomach and the intestines where it should be, so bacteria can't ferment stuff and generate gas. Okay. I also want her to have the ultimate enzymes. Okay. I want her to take 2 or 3 of those, say 5 to 10 minutes for each meal, a couple ounces of water. And that should solve the problems.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Dr. Wallach. Now let's go to a question. We have a gentleman who's 72 years old and is on a very low income, Dr. Wallach, but he's experiencing erectile dysfunction. He's wanting to know, is there anything that he can take that's going to help with that, but not take half of his monthly income?
Okay. Number one, he needs to, if he's on any statin drugs, he needs to get off of statin drugs. Okay, cholesterol lowering drugs. Cholesterol makes up 95% of the weight of testosterone. He needs to eat 3 eggs twice a day with soft yolks, soft boiled, soft poached, soft scrambled butter. Hard boiled eggs don't count. Fried eggs cause cancer. Then I want him to, he said he's 180 pounds, did you say?
Yes.
Okay, 180 pounds. I want him to have 2 healthy brain and heart packs per month, full dose everything twice a day. And then if that's pushing him, then the only other thing I would add is the Zera test. Okay, get 2 bottles a month of the Zera test. If that's too much, just get 1 bottle a month of Zera test, but he should start out with 2 bottles a month of the Zera test, take 3 of those twice a day. And they give the Sertoli cells in the testicles what they need to make testosterone. But you need the eggs and the cholesterol to give the Sertoli cells the raw materials to make the testosterone. 95% of testosterone is cholesterol. Wouldn't hurt also to take the Ultimate Daily Classic tablets, 3 of those twice a day, to improve blood flow. Okay, because proper blood flow is required to resolve the ED issue.
Okay, so I know that that protocol works amazing, Dr. Wallach. I've recommended it to several people. This gentleman says his income is $750. And
well, here's what he can do. He can tell his friends to save all their plastic bottles for him instead of throwing them away. And he can turn them in and make, $50 a month just from plastic bottles from his 3 or 4 friends. Okay. Then by giving up the bad foods, fried foods and processed meats and oils and glutens, he's going to save a lot of money. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Eat at home. Eat at home. Don't eat out.
Right. Absolutely. Now, the next question, Dr. Wallach, is an individual with peripheral neuropathy and has to use a walker. 6'4", rather, 323 pounds, type 2 diabetic, no cartilage in the right hip, suffers from insomnia, spine nerves are touching, and L1, L2, L3. Can you help? So again, 82 years old, 6'4", 323 pounds, Dr. Wallach.
Okay. Yeah, 6'4". I'd like to see him weigh 223 pounds. So he's 100 pounds overweight. You can start out with 1 meal a day, a keto caramel meal. It'd either be a shake or a bar, one or the other, not both. After a month or so, if he really likes it, he can go to 2 meals a day, but start out with 1 meal a day. The other 2 meals he should eat like an Asian: maize, corn, rice, sweet potatoes with butter, not margarine, beans, squash, and seaweed. So to start out, ideally, he would take 3 healthy brain and heart packs a month, a full dose of everything with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I also want him to get 2 bottles a month of the MSM, so he can take 3 with each meal. That's going to support and promote maintenance, repair, cartilage, ligaments, tendons, connective tissue, disc between the vertebrae, bone, makes your bone itself. That's going to deal with the neuropathy and the arthritis and all that kind of stuff. And then for the diabetes, I want him to have 3 bottles a month of the sweeties. Or let's go this way: 2 bottles a month of the sweeties, so you can take 3 of those twice a day, and 1 bottle a month of the glucogenics at noontime. I take 3 of those at noontime. And then don't cold turkey off his medication for diabetes, but as the blood sugar begins to drop, he can slowly reduce the medication based on the numbers. Okay, it'll be safe to do it that way. But the arthritis is easy to get rid of. The neuropathy is easy to get rid of. The weight's easy to get rid of. The diabetes is easy to get rid of if he stays away from gluten, because if you're not giving up gluten, you can't absorb the nutrients necessary to get rid of the diabetes.
Absolutely. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr.
Mhm.
Wallach. And I think we have time for maybe one more.
Okay.
So
Yep.
Yeah, John wrote in the comments, Doc, I have a friend who was bitten by a tick and now has Lyme disease. Outside of the normal 90, are there specific products that will help with Lyme disease?
Okay. Well, in the future, we need to I'll answer his question, but we need to have them answer, does he have these other 18 different diseases and things? Because when a doctor doesn't know what to call it, no, he's bitten by a tick. Okay, I got Lyme disease. That may be not true. Okay, so we don't know that. Okay, unless they've actually grown the bug, which they rarely do. But it's an easy way to get him out of the office and charge him $100 for an office visit, right? Okay, so and do we get his weight?
We didn't do his weight, but let's say 200 pounds.
Sure. Okay. So none of the bad foods, no fried food, no processed meats, no oils, no gluten, no wheat, barley, no oats, no sugar. He needs to take 2 healthy brain and heart packs per month, 1 bottle of the MSM per month, so he can take 3 twice a day. He needs to take the Fucoid Z. I'd have him take 3 of those twice a day. That's 2 bottles a month. Support the immune system and anti-inflammatory. Also needs vitamin D3, 3 of those twice a day. That's 2 bottles a month. That's to, again, help absorb minerals to make sure that the bones and bone marrow is healthy and can make white blood cells and antibodies and so on for the immune system. And then we have our colloidal silver. He needs 2 droppers full under his tongue, 30 minutes for each meal and 30 minutes for bedtime. And it's absorbed almost like intravenously under his tongue. Before you even get the dropper out of your mouth, it's absorbed almost instantly. I've been doing it for 25 years that way. And it will kill all kinds of viruses, bacteria, fungus, and yeast, and certain small microscopic bugs of all kinds, okay? And so it's one of those things where the colloidal silver is very good for that, as well as taking the 90 essential nutrients so your bone marrow is happy, can make antibodies to kill the Lyme's organism. And let's go there.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Wallach. And one last question in the comments was psoriasis. Is that directly related to a gluten intolerance as well?
Yes, psoriasis is a nutritional deficiency caused by a gluten consumption. So per 100 pounds of body weight, they need to take 1 healthy brain and heart pack per month. They need to take 3 of the MSM twice a day per 100 pounds of body weight. Vitamin D3, 3 of those twice a day per 100 pounds of body weight. And the glucogel, throw that in. And then hair, skin, and nails, 3 of those twice a day, okay? And psoriasis goes away, like very quickly, within 30 to 60 days it'll go away. But you have to stay on the program forever, because if you go back to your old ways, within 6 months, the psoriasis comes back. Okay, now the psoriasis is an itchy, a bad looking thing on your skin. It could be on your face, could be on your arms, your chest, your legs, your back. But also it does bad things to your intestines. It does bad things to your artery walls, your veins, your intestinal walls and things. So you really, really need to stay away from all the bad stuff forever. You'll add 25 to 50 healthful years to your life by just staying away from the bad stuff.
I've seen some severe cases of psoriasis clear up in about 5 weeks.
Oh yeah.
Where the legs were covered, the forearms and the elbows were just covered in this scaly, dry, flaking. It looks so painful.
Yeah, well, it looks like they've been rolled in cornflakes.
Oh, it was horrible, but 5 weeks, gluten-free, get on the 90, and it was almost completely clear. You would have never known they had it. So it really works, folks. And I encourage you, if you've never tried any of the products that Dr. Wallach has mentioned today, give them 90 days. Get rid of the bad foods, stick with the good foods. And I can't guarantee anything because the FDA says that we cannot say that this prevents or whatever, but your body can do some amazing stuff when given the right stuff.
Well said.
Yeah. So Dr. Wallach, thank you again so much for taking these 2 hours out of your day to be with us and to make this a resource that the community can plug into to get information they're not going to hear anywhere else.
Yeah, your doctor's not going to share this kind of information with you because they don't get taught these things. And their whole teaching is to manage the disease. They want to milk your insurance policy like a cow, okay? They don't want you to get rid of the problem in 3 months. They want you to have the problem for 30 years so they can milk the insurance policy. They don't feel badly about doing that. I'm not hurting the patient because I'm billing the insurance company.
Well, guess what, folks? We don't have to milk our insurance company. We can be empowered. We can invest in our own health, and our future will thank you for it. Thank us for it. I know mine has. I am proud to say that I am 50 years old, gonna be 50-year-old and 9 months next month.
Look like you're 30.
And I love it. I absolutely love it. I have no fear of growing old because I don't feel like I'm 70 years old anymore. And I did. I really did. So I just want to, again, thank you, Dr. Wallach. Thank you to my co-hosts, Janti and Ruth Ellen and Nasima, for helping with this program and keeping everything rolling. And thank you to all of you who have plugged in live with us today, and all of you who are watching this recording. Share this information with somebody. Sharing this information is going to be life-changing for somebody. And that's what we're here for. We are here to empower ourselves, empower our communities to make choices and invest in themselves for a better future. Again, go to askdoclive.com if you hear any information today that you want to give a try. Our store is there. We have information there if you want to contact us with your own questions or want to have a health evaluation with one of our certified holistic health coaches. You can use the contact us information there to get in contact with us. And on behalf of Ask Doc Live, my name is Rebecca Kozak, and I invite you back next week to AskDocLive.com. Have an empowered day, everybody, and share the 90. It is well worth it. Bye for now.
Again, bye-bye. Thank
Bye,
you,
Dr.
Rebecca.
Wallach.
Bye, everybody. Love you. Bye-bye.
Mwah.
Woo!